Okay, in this exercise, I will go through an existing data file that isn't on my computer. I will import the file and then I will apply basic cleaning processes, such as, for example, removing columns that are empty and columns or variables that are empty, and also missing values. It's quite important to be able to delete missing values from my analysis, because they might throw off several of my methods. For example, when using predictive analytics, some methods will not run if they find at least one missing value. So we have to be really careful about this. So this part is part of the data cleaning or the data preparation part. So first, I will create a diagram. So I can do so by right click where it says diagram in my left panel, or going to the menu, I can click on file, new diagram, or I can just press Control Shift D as in David. I prefer to just right click using my mouse and create a new diagram. So I will call this bath soap. It could be any name. I'm deciding to use a name that is going to be as the project, but basically you can choose any name that you want. So now that I have a diagram, I need at least one diagram to be able to run my project. So now the next step is to get data into my model. So in one of the videos I was showing you how to get data from the SAS servers. In this example, I'm going to use data from my computer. To do so, I need to go to the tab called sample, and need to select an icon or a node. The right name is a node called file import. So I just drag the node file import into my diagram. So when I click and I select the node, you will notice on the left hand side a properties panel. So this property panel is very important because this is the only way that I have to configure and control the node that I'm working with. So in this case, file import, and for now there is an option called import file in the properties panel that I can click, where I will be able to select the file that I will be working with. So I will click browse, and in my case my file is in my download folder. So I select the file and click OK. So now I'm not importing the file. I'm getting 500, the first 500 records or rows I'm getting, just to understand what type of data I'm working with. So this is all that I'm actually doing. So I haven't run the node yet. So let's run it. So I can click on the node, right click and select run, or in the menu I can select the run option. uh, in actions I can also select run, or I can also press function 3 or F3 on my keyboard. Okay, so I will run the path. I only have one node. This is a very simple diagram. So this is a good way for me to understand what kind of data I'm working with. So on the run status, I will normally click OK, but right now I need to know what kind of data is in the file. So I will look at the results so I can understand what I'm working with. So when you click results, you can see there are a number of columns. So actually a big number of columns that I don't know what I mean. So I have to be able to inquire a little bit more on this column so I can know exactly what type of file I'm working with. I can also click on variables, seeing I already run the node, and by selecting individual variables, for example age, I can click age and then explore, and with that I can have an idea of the type of data I'm working with. So for example, here I see the observations. An observation is equal to a row or a record, depending on the system that you're working with, at the frequency distribution of the data that you have, minimum and maximum values, mean. So there is valuable information about the data that you have. The only problem that I have with this, by looking data this way, is that it's very difficult to look at a lot of data at the same time. So I would prefer to use the Graph Explorer node that is in the second tab in the menu. It's the number 4 from the left, Graph Explorer. I will drag the node into my diagram. Uh, I Some people prefer to use a horizontal layout. I like to use a vertical layout. It's just a personal preference. So if I run the Graph Explorer node, you will notice that I will be able to look into the data file and make some decisions along the way. So in this case, the Explorer, the node ran, and if I look at the results of the Graph Explorer, I will be able to see what kind of data I'm working with. So there are 67 columns or variables, so that's a lot, so for any analysis. So now you can see some values. This is a sample, so normally by default the system will take the first 2000 records for sampling. Now as you notice, the first 3, 6, 9, 10 columns have the data. Others, they do not, so they're empty. So what I need to do, I need to make sure that I'm only considering data fields or columns that are going to be important for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop these columns. As a matter of fact, I will only keep few columns in my analysis. This is just for an example. So the way that we have for dropping columns in a model is to use a node that is called drop. You need to go to the modify menu and select drop. I will drag the node next to the Graph Explorer, and I will create a new path between file import and drop. So now I will run this path. This is so I can get data into the drop node, and then after that I can specify which column will I use and which column I need to drop. So now that run, so I won't be able to see anything because there is not a Graph Explorer after the drop node. All I did was to be able to have variables. So see, if I click different nodes, the property panel will change. So I need to make sure that I'm clicking on the drop node, and then I will select variables. So I'll select this variable so I can tell SAS which columns I want to keep and which columns I want to drop. So by default, I'm leaving everything in. So drop equal to no, meaning it's not dropping these columns. So I can just go column by column and change that to yes. However, because there are 64, I guess 66, it will be a big number. So I will rather click where it say age, press Ctrl Shift to select the columns, and then I will change it all to yes, and then I click anywhere in the name column. So what I did is that I click on the first field in the name of the first column, sorry, and I pressed Ctrl Shift, sorry, control the arrow going down, and then I selected yes or no. So by doing this, however, now I'm excluding everything. I'm not leaving anything to my analysis. So, but to me, this is easier to control. So I will prefer to drop everything but the columns that I need that I will be working with. So for example, I will keep age. That's because I want to do an example. So I know that age has data. I saw that before, so I want to keep it. Affluence index, I want to keep it. So just remember this. By selecting no, it means that you are keeping the field. So it's a negative answer. So saying yes will delete or will drop the field. Saying no will keep the field. I will also select number of children, no, so I can keep it. Educational level, no. Food eating habits, no. High school, whether that it means whether the, sorry, that's household size, no high school. Member ID, no. So in other words, I'm keeping it. Number of brands, no. I'm keeping that too. So how do I know sex? No. Value, no. How do I know which one I want to keep and which one I want to leave? Well, I know what a columns means. I can click on any column, click explore and see what is the content. Or if I run the graph explore node, I can see which variables I want to keep and which variables I want to drop. So let's suppose that I'm leaving these variables in. So now when I run this path that goes from file import to drop, I will be dropping these variables from the data source. So when I say that, I'm saying that I'm dropping this variable from the analysis, but I'm not touching the data. So in the computer, in the system, the data is still there. So I'm just dropping it for the purposes of the analysis. Yeah. So now let's run a graph explorer node after dropping these columns. So I can see now I can run this and I can see the differences between the file import with the drop and without the drop. So this one that I'm running right now will have less columns than the other one. So now if I select results and view the data source, I can see that I have less column. You see, food eating habits, sex, age, education, household size, number of children, value of purchases, member ID, which is kind of a customer ID, affluence index, which is the higher the number, the more affluent is the consumer is, and the number of brands that the consumer is buying and in this particular store. Yep. So now that I have that, I can say that this path that I have here on the right hand side has data that is being cleaned from the columns point of view. So let me rename. I will right click on the Graph Explorer node and let me rename this Graph Explorer, and I will put a meaningful name after drop. Yep. So I can't put the same name for two nodes, so I have to put different names. Alright, so the next step is to be able to filter missing values. In this particular example, I don't have missing values. So, however, it's a good a habit, it's a good practice to be able to do so. So what I need to do is after dropping the columns that are empty or that I don't want, I will just filter, you know, by selecting the fourth icon on the sample tab from the left. So, and I will create another path going from here to here. Yeah. So in the filtering, remember when I click in the node, I will have the properties panel change it. Yeah. So let's run the filter node to see what is happening. Okay, so I have it. Okay, so when I click it, you will notice on the left hand side that you have class variables and interval variables. So go to the, you understand what class variables and interval are, go to the lecture that I have recorded before, where you can see the differences between these two. However, in any case, I don't know whether I have class variables, interval variables, or a combination of both. And to be honest, at this point, I don't want to know specifically. I just want to filter missing values. So there is an options for keep missing values for class variables. So I will say no, meaning any row that is empty it will be deleted for class variables, and I will do the same for interval variables. So by doing this, what I'm doing is actually cleaning. This one will clean columns, and this one will clean rows that are empty. Right. So after doing that, I might want to keep using the Graph Explorer node. I really like this node. I use that quite a lot, so I can see how is my path going moving forward. So then I will run this process. So I will run the path. So it goes first to the file import, then it will drop data. After that, it will filter data, will delete all the rows that are missing or with missing values, and then after that, it will show me the results. So I run the process, the diagram, and now I can see that I should not have rows that are missing with any missing values in my observations. If there is one missing values or any of these rows, that row will be deleted. Yeah. So that's quite important. There are other processes that we can do. I will go through that in different videos. Yeah. So I can rename this Graph Explorer after filter. So just a matter of preferences to be able to put meaningful names. So that will be a way. That's how I achieve, a clean file, and I can keep cleaning and preparing my data file for my analysis. So far, if I want to, I can now start modeling data or looking for associations or segmentations. But now I know that my data is clean. You can leave this like that, or I like to do this because now that I know how the data is, I won't use this node Graph Explorer. So I will click here and I will delete it because I don't need it anymore. Now I know what I want to do. Likewise with the drop. So we'll just delete that. And then I will put everything in an horizontal or in a vertical way. And now you can see that it's a very clean diagram. You might wonder, how do you got there? Well, I went to every single node. I was trying to understand what was happening, and now I have my information filter. So this is it. It's very simple. So try doing so with different columns from the file, and see how it goes. In the next steps, I will show you more data. In future steps, I will show you more data transformations and data manipulation processes, and we're going to be preparing this data file for segmentation. We're actually one step away from segmentation, but I will show you other ways to do data manipulation into it. Thank you.